work out here.
When you say CTM's run something, it's like, yeah, I know, he probably has. Like, anything, any role, it doesn't matter, the man's played it. Like, he can just make anything work. And you are correct, by the way, John. I believe it was earlier on in the group stages, we were seeing CTM play a lot of support gyrocopter. And may I just add, with the new shards, I know we talked about this earlier in a previous series, but man, that shards, the rocket barrage and the homing missile, it's ridiculous how much damage it does if you're trying to run away. It's either you take the stun or you run away and die anyway. There's no other option. It's ridiculous. It's too much.
That it is, and you can also force staff the homing missile as well. So, that can happen. I believe we did see Yopaj last time he tried to run that mid. That's the first time we saw that attempted with his force staff Kaya Sanj build. Very experimental, very avant-garde, did not pay off. Polaris, though, and they're keeping in with his sort of standard draft. Invoker Clockwork coming through, very aggressive on the mid lane with the Invoker, can kind of play fast, especially when you hit that earn timing. Depending on the build, you can go Quas Wex. We have seen some Exort Invokers in certain lineups looking for the Sun Strikes. That can work out as well when you've got the Clockwork, to a certain extent from the Monkey King as well. So there's some early aggression for Polaris here. A lot of good early fights they could take. They've got good control. Team fights looking good. Sustain's great. Tombstone in really good spot can kind of put a spanner in the works for Boom, especially for the Tiny. That slow is going to make it hard for him to run around. Boom do go into the TA coming out for Yopaj. So that's our stable core. That should be Yopaj mid. I say that, but yeah, no. It should be Yopaj mid. I'm going to stick to that. And likely Tiny or Gyrocopter on the pause 1. So they're keeping their last pick kind of flexible here for FBZ, and we've seen FBZ's hero be really impactful for Boom, right? Like, that's their building point. And that held true for the old Boom lineup where everyone used to say FBZ was the anchor of the team. Seems like that carries over with this new iteration of Boom as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Final banouts to come, Boom Esports Polaris. I mean, we are looking to what appears to, I mean, it's so hard to know what Polaris wants to pick up for this final pick. You'd think it's an off lane, but you can kind of assume the Undying might be in that off lane, so it's very, very hard to really decide. In fact, Boom Esports, they go ahead and ban out some position 1s now, so maybe assuming the Monkey King is going to be supporting instead, and it could be an off lane Undying, POS 4 Monkey, say, and POS 5 Clockwork, perhaps. Were you the one that started the highlight message thing in the Twitch chat, by the way? Because it's been going on for hours now. Yeah.
No. I just saw it. I joined in, and it's fun. It's a great little copy pasta to fool people into wasting their points. Haha, you're losing out in points, guys. It's not the eco play. You got to think about the long term, about the returns you get from the highlights. Yeah. You got to look for the perfect pasta. It is still going though. That's amazing. Like, I haven't seen Twitch chat just latch onto one pasta for an entire 6 hours, so that's pretty impressive. Good job, guys.
Yeah, I'd say chat's been very active today. It's very good to see. I guess it's TI season though, right? Like, you've got to start getting active right now in preparation, because once you gotta start working through it. As Polaris, they pick up the Spectre. It's not a position 3 Spectre, Jonathan. Pretty sure it's a POS 1, though I suppose you never know. We might just about find out if it is going to be a 3 Spectre. I suppose Polaris would be another one of those teams that wants to be a little bit cheeky and run POS 3 Spectre. Still, a bit of an interesting pick into the draft of Boom, though, right? Like, it does feel... It feels a little bit greedy, if I'm honest. Like, against Gyro, against TA, against Tiny, could be a bit of a rough matchup for the Spectre. And we just saw it as well. Like, if you wanted to, say, throw the Tiny in the POS 1 role and you wanted to run that support Gyro with CTM, you do eventually just build into a Silver Edge, which would be pretty darn good against the Spectre.
Yeah. You just kind of cut them off. I'm seeing chat react to the Jumbo hot dog thing. Glad to see that you guys still remember that. We're old now. Spectre, I think in the context of their lineup on Polaris' side, it's not that greedy, right? Like, the Spectre can take all the farm. Invoker, Monkey King, Undying, even if it's a core, can take the backseat. And it is not Sumi Spectre, so we're not getting the spicy offlane here. And they will go with Boomy Monkey King. So it is the core offlane Undying coming through for Nico. Keen to see how much he can get out there. It does look like we will have the Palace Gyrocopter. So they're not going with the support gyro. Tim's is on the Tiny. We'll have to see how much he brings out. And plus 4 Tiny, we don't see too often. And that can fall down pretty fast if you don't hit your blink timing. And that Silver Edge buildup you mentioned, it could still happen for support Tiny. It's a longer process, unless they really give Tims a lot of farm priority there. So some juggling around of priorities for Boom to kind of handle here. And when you're running Gyro TA, you talked about greed. For Boom, this is pretty greedy. Like, Gyrocopter wants to farm, TA wants to farm as well. They need to clear out a lot of camp space for these 2 cores to sustain. One of them is going to have to take a more active role. I'm thinking Palos will have to step out fast. Even the Batrider, right? He likes to play in the jungle as well. So the early to mid game, if they don't get that space secured, could be rough for Boom. I think Polaris has a more selfish lineup despite the Spectre.
Okay, fair enough. So you're kind of... You're going with the side of Polaris here, John? Is that what you're telling me? I mean, the betting scene
I'd
needs
lean
to
towards
know...
Boom. I'd lean towards Boom, but
Okay.
I don't think it's an outdraft. I think it's just down to Boom are able to stall the game out long enough to get the TA Jar online, and it just goes from there. You have 2 really hard scaling cores versus 1 hard scaling core, and that's going to be the name of the game. If Polaris can get early control and start kind of running around, getting the kills, shutting down the map, it's going to be hard for Boom to get that going. But I feel like Boom should be able to hold back in that aggression with the Enchantress Tiny supports. And they can kind of make space, especially Ench, if she does manage to scout out well, just put her body forward and buy that space out, potentially with a Batrider down the line, you will be able to stall the game out long enough. They just have to stall for a really, really long time, and that could be an issue.
Okay, fair enough. So you've kind of given us a non-answer there, Jonathan. Very, very confusing for the people trying to bet against what we're saying. Feel very, very bad for the betting crowd right now. So, you saw the odds up earlier. A lot of all chat going on as well. Have you been keeping track, John? What have they been talking about?
CTM asked Nico about his diary. And CML is asking him to not be a maniac.
Diary?
So, yeah, I have no clue. I have no clue about Nico's diary. I don't know what he keeps in his diary. I'm keen to read his diary now, because apparently it's a public issue. So I would like to see. I did want to point this out. I didn't have the time to point this out, but if you will note, Polaris has Boomy, and he's playing against Boom. Boomy versus Boom.
Oh, well done, John. Well, you've done it. Well done. Top lane, Simo. Gonna try and run. Natsumi just gonna rush right forward. They do get the bounty on FBZ, but now CTM, he's just gonna drop so much damage on the Enchantress at level 1. It's gonna be too much for CTM. As they do manage to secure first blood. I believe it was onto Mac. So your mid Invoker now gonna be starting off with that bonus gold. Very, very happy days here for Mac on this Invoker.
Yeah, matchup for Mac as well is, not too bad. I think the TA eventually, when the Psy Blades are up, maybe you can play with a Melt Strike, can kind of harass out the Invoker, but the Invoker does have the natural regen coming through, especially with that Quas up. Looks like Mac will be going for the standard Quas Wex, queuing up the Urn. So he's got some decent timings and will be looking to play fast. Yopaj, for his part, just has to focus in on that CS, ensure that his side camp is accessible, and right now it is blocked. So a heads-up play from Polaris to slow down that initial farm. And as long as they kind of keep that TA in check, again, the greed of Boom's lineup, if they start losing map space, it's going to be hard to get both the TA and the Gyrocopter online.
Absolutely. Of course, bot lane, John, you've got Tims there with FBZ against CML and Natsumi. And now it should be a fairly calm lane for Natsumi up until you get that level 2, level 3 mark on FBZ. And then suddenly things start getting a little bit more hectic as FBZ are naturally going to want to try and make the dive in with that Firefly. He's just about to hit that level 2 mark, so we'll have a quick gander at that a bit later on. Of course, the last lane, Mac and Yopaj against each other. Kind of already talked about this one. I imagine Yopaj should be able to pull ahead quite nicely. Mac is trying to get quite a bit of harassment out on the Invoker, but I think for now, Yopaj always have the side camps to go back to, and we know Yopaj, John. He's a very confident kind of mid-player. Doesn't really mind taking harassment.
No, doesn't really mind at all. He's got the bottles to sustain now, and level 3 is up, so level 2 refraction, a bit harder for Mac to burn through. And that should lead to an easier time for Yopaj to kind of get the farm. He still has a small camp block, so he's missing out and potentially stacking in between, but he hasn't really had the need to check on that camp anyway, so kind of balances out. We'll see if some support rotations come true. I don't expect that this game, but you do have more active supports on, especially in Polaris. Up top, of course, Boomy's on one of those active supports on the Monkey King, kind of getting zoned out by CTM, and this is the one issue with a Monkey 4 and a dual melee lane against Enchantress. Like, Nico and Boomy can't really trade too well with CTM, despite him dropping earlier as first blood. He's got the range, he's got level 2, he hasn't gone for the impetus yet, but once he has that spell up, once he has a good creep to take with the enchant, a lot of presence that the Ench has that they can't really do much about with an Undying and a Monkey King yet.
Surprised we haven't seen a dive yet from FBZ. Maybe just waiting for the level 3 mark now, but thought he might go a little bit earlier. Meanwhile, mid lane, Yopaj trying to go in onto Mac. Copying a lot of damage though, and the rotations out from Boomy, and with the Balance Strike, they will have enough to get rid of the Templar Assassin. Very nice kind of sneaky rotation from Boomy on the Monkey. Naturally, it does pay off.
It's just down to that really active support you have in the Monkey. You can jump in early, secure those kills. Yopaj being a bit greedy does get punished nicely, and that will give Mac a little bit more to play with. Gives him time to catch up in CS, where he has been lagging behind slightly. Yopaj should be still sustaining fine, although with the lack of a small camp to kind of play between waves, it's a bit tough. He will get the D-ward at least.
Palos though, top lane ends up dropping another time for this team, so 3-0 now for Polaris. Is Nico able to clean up that gyrocopter top lane? Boomy's the one really setting up here on the Monkey King constantly for the side of Polaris. He's been a real nuisance on this Pos 4 Monkey so far.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see from your Monkey King. Early activity has to pay off. He's got the level 2 tree dance, so he has pretty good damage when he lands, and the slow is pretty ridiculous. It's hard to get out, although Nico's out of mana. He does have a soul ring.
Yeah, stun will land, Nico. He should be just fine anyway. Like you said, soul ring up. Can always soul rip if he needs, and well, there you go. Gives himself a bit more extra healing, though he did decay beforehand, so not as efficient as you would like to see, I'm sure, John, but nevertheless, he's more than healthy, and with the awfully on Undying, he's not really being pressured whatsoever, let's be honest. He's perfectly fine right now.
He's matching the CS of FBZ on the offlane, so he's having the same impact in terms of economy. He's not slowing down Palos, despite that kill. Like, Palos is still finding the CS to build up, but because of this aggression, Palos is forced to go for Rocket Barrage, so he's not going to have the early flak cannon farming utility yet. He could still go for a 2-1-2 build, but it does kind of offset it, right? Like, we tend to see 0-1-3 build into level 5 with stats coming in, and that just slows down the Gyrocopter's flash farm just a bit more, which means Palos will be looking to play a more active position, trying to cut down the trees. Does miss the mark, but it is getting to that point with the levels racking up on the Monkey and then dying that the Ench can't really fully zone them out by herself. Like, CTM's got level 2 Enchant, still pocketing the Impetus or Nature's Attendant. But even with either of those spells, with the tankiness of these two heroes, it is hard to just harass them out purely by just those spells alone.
I mean, I think you still want to go the Impetus route here if you're CTM, but naturally he knows a lot better than we do. Nico, you get enchanted up. Stun is going to be up, but he's a very tanky target. Rocket Barrage, it's just not going to be enough. Boomy, he tanks through it, and now Palos. He's in trouble again on the gyro. He might just barely find Boomy, but no, not quite. Tornado EMP's going to be there from Mac. And that ensures that they get the gyrocopter kill very, very easily. There's both Boomy and, of course, Nico will be able to go get a reset back at the fountain. And unfortunately for Palos, he's having just a very rough time.
Yeah, but it's a great start for Polaris. Going 4-0, less than 1k net worth lead. They're finding aggression in their mid and off lane. Natsumi, even he's having a decent enough lane against Bad Rider, though. The CS is falling behind, has to be careful here.
Yeah, Avalanche is out. FBZ, though, can keep chasing as he has the Firefly up now. And, well, for Natsumi, there's no real way out. Just perfectly timed there from Boom. They'll find another kill. That was actually their first kill of the game, by the way. So FBZ does claim the first kill for Boom Esports as, well, it seems like top lane now. They found another. CTM able to take down Nico.
Yeah, without the support, the Undying can try to spam his spells out, but you do need someone to kind of distract so you can get at least 2 decays up. And it doesn't really have that without a body on board. Boom just a bit too far to help the cause. He does show up now, just a bit too late. The side of Polaris still playing aggressive. CML catches out Tims.
That he does, Tims. Spot of danger. Does get the toss and the avalanche off, and it's going to be more than enough. Or is it? CML still going to chase him down. Has level 1 rocket flare, but won't have the damage output unless Mac could throw out a very nice tornado, but that's not going to fly out either. In the meantime, CML is going to scan up the stacks being made for Yopaj. I suppose you can kind of estimate that this is going to happen anyway. And so it does kind of get a quick glance at what's going on in this triangle. And in the meantime, Yopaj, he's not quite ready to make his way over there yet anyway. Though he is top of the CS sport, so he's having a decent enough time. We'll see if they manage to kind of try to slow him down again. Because in fact they do right now. Cold Snap is there, haunted from Natsumi. Boundless Strike to lock him down. Yopaj, he's out of refraction now and has out of mana as well. He might still have to try and fight back, but CML shows up now. Just everybody swarming the TA. And they'll get the kill, but now Natsumi, he also got caught by FBZ, but it's not going to be enough damage. Because you've got all 5 heroes from Polaris showing up in this mid lane. They do lose Mac. But Tims goes down to boot. Boomy, he'll make the chase in on FBZ. And might just be able to get the Batrider as now Nico finds CTM and Tims. And the Rocket Flare will be enough to get the kill onto FBZ. So in the end, I mean, they commit all their heroes for that. But it's well and truly worth it for the side of Polaris.
Oh yeah, they're getting the aggression out they want to at this lineup. We talked about Boom, what they have to do. They have to secure their early game. They have to secure the jungle. Not coming true. Polaris has punished that greed quite nicely. They've got the deep wards down. They've scouted out the stacks, as we mentioned earlier on. And now it's getting a bit choked out. There's not enough good room for Yopaj to really start to rack up the farm he needs on that TA. He's not lagging too far behind. But if this momentum keeps up, Polaris, once they find a couple of towers, the jungle is going to be a very hard spot for Boom to sustain in. And they still need time for both the Gyrocopter and TA to farm up. Whereas, in comparison, Invoker, just with an Urn, is ready to go. The Undying with Phase Boot Soul Ring has a lot of presence on hand, and he is going for a Hood of Defiance next. Going to be hard to burst him down with just how tanky he can be in the middle of the fights. And Polaris is lining up for that quick push up top. They've got Natsumi in the top lane. They do not have the fastest push potential, to be fair. But if no one comes in to defend, you're still going to find that tower.
That probably is going to be the case here, John. I mean, Polaris, they will surely just be able to get this top tier 1 for free. Boomy, though, may get caught down at the bot lane, but Tims unable to really break the gap to find that Monkey King. So Boomy almost springs back in, but he's just looking to clear the creep wave and just be as annoying as humanly possible in this Monkey King. It's always one of those things, right? When you're chasing a monkey, it's kind of like, are you wasting your time? More than likely, yeah, you probably are, though Boomy getting very, very risky now with the jumps he's making. But again, they just can't punish him.
No. They don't have the best hold just with a tiny inch. I'm sure you could maybe get an avalanche off from Tims, but the range is fairly short. They're really just maximizing the jumps well. Good scan though, but...
Oh, Yopaj does avoid the hook as CML ended up hitting an Ancient Creep, and the scan was enough information for Yopaj to get himself out. He's still going to stick around for that small camp though, as the rest of Polaris now looking to move in, but Palos, he's going to find CML. They've got the clockwork at the least. Cog's not really going to help him out too much. Meanwhile, on the side, we are going to see a Haunt in. Who are they going to chase, though? They'll try it onto CTM, and they will be able to get the Boundless Strike, but now the lasso's there. They've got Natsumi. He'll try to make a run for it, but it looks like he is pretty screwed over as FBZ does manage to land the final hit. Tims, move in onto Boomy, but the toss is on a neutral creep. In fact, Tims now might just drop on this Tiny, and eventually does. Boomy able to take another kill here. 3-0-5 on the support Monkey King, and he just continues to make work happen across this map.
Yeah, it's just been very impactful with his scouting, with his mobility in that Monkey King. Boom does find a little bit more in that exchange. I think they're happy enough to hold down Nico and get the kill on Yopaj. So the TA is starting to build up, starting to hit its spikes. Still needs a lot more, but the Dragon Lance is there. Blink next for Yopaj, not opting for the death, so he just wants the mobility on hand to catch out some of those cores in the back line. And once that's up, should be easy. Down bot, though.
That's ATM. Gonna get caught. Another nice pickup. And again, I mean, I keep saying this game one, but it does seem to all just revolve around what Boomy's doing on this Monkey King. Just finding so much information for his team, enabling them to make these very aggressive jumps in. Mind you, you are still behind in terms of net worth. Your Page is still ahead. On top of that net worth board, and right behind him is going to be Polaris on the gyrocopter. So regardless of how many kills you're finding, you still aren't leading in terms of the gold exchange, but I suppose they are keeping it very close considering it is a TA gyrocopter against them. Perhaps at this stage you'd expect Boom to be way further ahead with this kind of draft.
Yeah, I think you're fine with that from Polaris, and the aggression still pays off. The bot tier 1 is still being shoved in, although Mac.
Avalanche tosses out, but Tims, he may have gone way too far forward as now the EMP is going to fly through, and Tims, he's just taking so much damage, but he does have his team behind him. Cooldown's going to be there. Mac, he's still trying to chase. It may have been a bait all along as they've got CML and Mac's trapped in the tree line, but there's your tombstone out. Nico, he'll try to help, and he does make it. So Palos ends up dropping, but still, they are trapped against the wall now. Mac is still going to go down in the end, and Yopaj, he'll move in onto Nico. Is this Undying? He's quite tanky, but probably not tanky enough to deal with 4 heroes. Yopaj able to get a double kill now on that TA. And it's not something you really like to see if you aren't Polaris.
No, they sacrificed way too much to hold on to the bot tier 1, which at this point was kind of set for dead, right? Like it's 13 minutes in, the tower is bound to fall. They pour in way too much resources to stop it. At the least, they're getting space out for Natsumi. Spectre is still sort of keeping up in farm, and we are seeing Natsumi go for the Ags Rush as well on the spec. So Echo Saber Ags Rush just wants that impact with a Shadow Step. We've seen that before. It can be quite painful. He does not have something like the Urn or a Spirit Vessel, as Mac, again, already has the Spirit Vessel up. So we'll see if that does impact the early aggression of the Spectre, but I think overall it still lines up. Good stats for the Spectre. The talents kind of play along with that aggression as well. Like the dagger damage is great and the dagger slow is great. So you can kind of build off of that quick initiation. Polaris though?
Oh, hook shot in, CML right in onto that gyrocopter. Palos, he's having such a rough game already, and it's not going to get much easier for him. So he will drop another time. CML, the next target though, Mac, he gets lassoed up. They've at least got the Invoker down. And it looks like it's starting to turn into one of those games where you are going to be expecting your Pash to be the real carry here for Boom Esports. This Gyro, I mean, Palos, he's just not really able to survive throughout these team fights. And again, with a draft like what Boom has, he's not going to have that much space to be able to farm stacks because you are probably going to prioritize this TA.
I think that's a worthwhile investment though. Like the gyrocopter still has some forward impact, but just tossing spells out, eventually you're still going to hit an Ags timing down the line. Then you can just look for a Satanic, try to be a tanky frontliner core. Nico?
And very deep in that mid lane. There's a lot of damage now out. So Boom, they'll clean up that mid. And suddenly a 13 to 12, but more importantly, a 4K net worth lead for Boom Esports. And that's when you start to get a lot more concerned if you're Polaris. I mean, you were just slightly less than 1K behind, but now suddenly 4. Not going to feel very good for him. Yopaj, though, getting very aggressive. May end up paying, but no. He just blinks away. Because now instead they'll find Tims on the Tiny. Avalanche tosses out. He's got help nearby, but they're going to let Tims die for this. Just not 100% confident to try and force the fight from Boom.
Decent punishment coming out from Polaris. Not the biggest kill to take, but that does stop the aggression onto that mid-tier run. Although Yopaj.
Still moving in. Balance Strike will connect. You're at that point now where the Sireblades start bouncing at ridiculous range. Ultimately, now unable to kill off Yopaj again. He's going to start working towards that Desolator. And once the Deso's up, you can look towards that mid-tier 1 tower, and more importantly, you can look towards that first Roshan.
Yeah, becomes really easy to take that first Aegis game. I think the side of Boom, they're happy enough with Pulse's build-up, right? Like, they are sacrificing it for the TA, but he's just rushing BKB. He just wants to stand, use the rocket barrage, use the call down, get the damage off that way. There is a smoke coming out from Boom. 3-man smoke with FBZ. He's got the blink. He's been really impactful with these lassos.
Oh, Mac. He's constantly been the victim of these lassos as well from FBZ, as now Tim's is also going to find CML, and they should have another, but a nice hook shot to try and get himself out. It won't be enough, though. Yopaj still managed to snipe him on the clockwork. In fact, it looks like they even found another. Boomy, he's been so good this whole game, but you're now experiencing the power spike of Boom Esports. And John, I think it might be about that time, in a few hundred gold, to start going for that Roshan pit, if you are Boom.
Oh, 100%. Like, that Destillator being up for Yopaj relatively soon means that Rosh is the biggest play you can make. He already took the mid-tier 1. No easy access points for Polaris. They do have the hook shot and haunt. And they've got the Undying to punish in a very tight area. So there is some counterplay for Polaris. Issue is they don't have control for Triangle. Good wards coming through from Boom to scout out any sort of movement. Side of Polaris will have to commit a smoke if they want to kind of check in on the Rosh. They will smoke up early, though. Smoke up now.
Immediately broken, though, there on Nico. Tims. Stick around on the Tiny. Does actually get a very nice courier snipe there on Max Courier. Will just get himself out immediately. And Natsumi's still just trying to go towards the Manta, but he's really starting to fall behind in terms of net worth. And I believe they just scanned him out as well. In fact, no, it was the scan of the Radiant, finding out Boom Esports. So a very nice scan there from our Spectre. So it doesn't really help that Natsumi, he's not able to freely hit creeps right now. Just constantly having to rotate across the map and try to find a better location to farm in. Definitely tough times ahead.
Yeah, it's difficult for Polaris to play around the Spectre right now. Like, they can't play around the Haunt as we saw Mizu do on his offlane Spec. They were always timing fights around the Haunt, getting the kills, building up that way on the Spectre. This time around, Natsumi's just not geared up for it. Like, the damage output of Boom's too much. If he does pop in the Haunt, if they don't get control on Yopaj first, he just gets bursted down. And controlling Yopaj at this point with his max refraction is a difficult process. Like, your hold is just not guaranteed. You need to rip through refraction to stop blink. And Yopaj is just relatively secure there. So we'll see if Polaris finds the angle. They will smoke up. Haunt still up. Hook still up. They could look for an angle to get a pick off here.
CML needs to land the hook shot here to set up onto Palos. You do have the balance of Boomy to try and hold him down if you need be. Palos, he has his whole team right behind him, though. It's a bit of a bait play. As now FBZ jumps in and gets the lasso off. Right on the Undying, and Nico's gone. Palos pops the flat cannon. Off we go. CML, he'll be the second to drop. And now the avalanche toss in from Tims onto Mac. And they may have just found themselves a third hero now. As Mac, he can't sustain himself here, surely. He'll try. Flame Break is there, though. It'll knock him back. Toss back onto Boomy. They'll find a fourth hero. Why the hell not? And in the meantime, Natsumi, he's watching. But what can he do?
Yeah, he can't do much. He's got the Manta up, so there is a little bit more impact on the Haunt play. They just haven't been able to play around it. Like, the lineup of Polaris, I think if they got the proper initiation, the Haunt would have been really impactful, but they get a bit impatient. Nico shows up first, gets dragged back, and Boom just clean up with numbers advantage. So I think for Polaris right now, you play with your hook shot. You have to rely on that to jump in first, get information out with the flare, play with a Haunt afterwards, and go from there. They do scout out the Roshan, but it is a quick rush with that Deso up on Yopaj, and they spot Boomy out.
Yeah, that they do. Boomy, which is fine. Sunstrike will come in. Hort Natsumi, he snatches the Aegis away. He's got it on the Spectre. A massive play here for Polaris. Can they continue trying to fight? Not quite. They're going to back off with that. There's a great Sunstrike from Mac. Great steal from Natsumi. It's definitely the best thing that's happened to them all game so far. So, yeah, you haven't seen much good recently, I'll tell you that. So anything you can get right now for Polaris is definitely great news.
It's a great pickup. but I don't think they can be aggressive without Aegis. Like, for the most part, Natsumi's going to stick back to farming. He popped Haunt, so that's 2 minutes now where it's on cooldown. And they should just be farming up. The side of Boom are actually going to look to play into it. They know that Aegis on Spectre is actually not that scary.
Yeah, I don't think it's... Yeah, I don't think they can actually fight with it at all. Boom Esports could just happily force a team fight. Polaris would still be the ones to just back out and probably not try to force anything. It's Boom now. Moving in. Lasso up. FBZ. Lock himself a target. He's been on Mac constantly as Mac's about to show himself as well. Tree throw is there. Tims won't get the vision. It won't matter. Into the tier 2 tower they go. Aegis or not, Natsumi, if he wants to try and commit this Aegis and use it to their advantage, he needs to force the fight. Because he does at least want his Ags up first in the Spectre before he does go down that route. And so he'll use it more as a survival mechanism than trying to be aggressive and try to find something with it.
Yeah. It's just more cautious play from Polaris. They understand that, you know, with the deficit they've got on hand, even with a second life, they don't have enough to back it up. So, patience coming through. Just try to build up that farm. Try to hit that Ags timing. Once that's up, you can try to play with a solo pickoff. With that Shadow Step, we've seen that be really, really strong. Again, on that last series you saw with Mizu in the offlane. Timing doesn't look too bad. I mean, all things considered, Natsumi's just about 1,000 behind Palos and 2,000 behind Yopaj. The Spectre has been getting some space. Just have to ensure that space is steady and keeps up pace with the TA gyro. As long as you're within this range with the TA gyro, you're in a good spot.
They've got the TA right now, but CML, he's just going to melt the damage output. In fact, he even loses his courier to the Sire Blades, but still, they've got the TA. He has a haze stream, but it'll be purged off by the Tornado. They've got all the control they needed to finally get rid of this Templar Assassin. However, top lane FBZ, he's going to return the favor right back. The way of Mac, it'll force the Haunt out. They'll try to get a fight going. Natsumi onto FBZ, will be able to get rid of the Bat Rider. They'll move in onto CML, excuse me, rather CTM. Decay there. They've got him. The Enchantress should eventually just die. And I do mean eventually, because it is a bit more of a longer process. Boom, it's a 3-for-1 trade in the favor of Polaris. I guess 2 for 3 if you count the buyback there from CML. Still pretty darn good news here for the Radiant, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're finding the kills, they're finding the punishment. I think Boom, losing your 2 cores like that, losing Yopaj and FBZ is not ideal, but you still keep down Mac. And you know you're forcing certain tools away from Polaris every engagement. You know that Haunt's down, so you've got another big opening here to force a fight without worrying about Natsumi popping up. The Aegis still has about a minute left, so not too much time left for Natsumi, but he does have his Ags up. So with the disassembly play on the Echo Saber, finishes off the Ags, has the Shadow Step. I'm not sure if the damage output of that Shadow Step without, say, an Urn or Spirit Vessel is going to be enough, but if he does find a nice squishy target, like, let's say... I suppose the Enchantress is probably your easiest bet. You can try to melt her down. Issue is, Enchantress with Untouchable at level 2 is harder than you think. I'm not sure if you jump first with a Shadow Step, but you could use it as an information tool in the end. Boom will smoke up though. They've got their own Ags up on Palos, and he's got the Chrysalis up as well. So he's doing a good amount of damage with a Flak and Side Gunner. Let's see if they find something here.
They're going to try. Into that Radiant Triangle they go. Paj. Get rid of that tier 1 top tower. However, in the meantime, Lasso's there. Boomy already gone. In fact, CML got caught out to boot. They'll find a double there on Palos. It'll only be the supports, but still a great couple of kills. As now, Boom, they might be able to force the tier 2 top tower as well.
It doesn't take too long for TA to get that damage out. They force the Fortify out just to stall this push. But that's going to be the second tier 2 tower falling for Polaris at this point, and it just shrinks down the map further. They don't have control for Triangle anymore for Polaris, so map space to farm is limited. Natsumi's forced to kind of hang around bot. They do have the outpost back, so he's fairly well protected, but even their mid just dying to the creeps. So looking like they're going to be out of all outer towers now, as Boom has complete control on the map. 15k lead, 17 to 23. And they're just ready to go. I don't think there's anything they're particularly waiting for. Maybe a Satanic on Palos to have him really sustain the front line. Perhaps looking for Yopaj to finish up his BKB for protection. But you've got the damage output, you've got the control, you've got the jump capability with Tims and with FBZ with her blinks. So you can just kind of run and gun. And Polaris, they're the ones to have to work for the angles. Their high ground defense is really good though, with Undying and Tombstone. And they can stall out fairly well with a well-placed Tombstone, but the impact of our core Undying offlane hasn't been to the full effect, I think. Like, we were seeing good early fights from Nico, control the lane fairly nicely, but the impact in these bigger team fights has just been a little lackluster, and I think that's down to Tombstone not being very easy to drop this game up against 3 ranged heroes. They will smoke up, though.
Well, Palos, he's there to break the smoke, just right forward. Hookshot's there, CML, where's your follow-up though? It's just not there, it's now the flat cannons. They just start flying out. A nice boundless strike on 2, but what does it matter? It's FBZ now. Can look for a lasso back and he's found Natsumi. That is the primary candidate if I've ever seen one, but he pops the horn, he'll haunt around and blow my ears out with all the sound effects that's coming up from this damn Arcana, but it won't matter because Palos just going to keep moving in with the flat cannon. Yopaj is there as well. Natsumi, he's going to try and hide in the tree line, but they know exactly where he's gone as he tries to shadow step back the other way. Yopaj will give him the tip over. In fact, there's CTM as well. Why the hell not?
Yeah, it's going to be tough now. They don't have Haunt, they don't have Tombstone. All their high ground defense just boils down to Mac, and
oh, great toss back from Tims. Onto CML, they'll get another. Yeah, without these buybacks available, you've got no hope of defending this bottom lane of Barracks. In fact, the way Boom Esports are going, I wouldn't quite blame them for going for a second. Even with the low respawn cooldowns or respawn timers, I just wouldn't blame them for just going for even more.
Yeah, there's nothing to stop them. Like, they know Wukong's is down, they know all the big team fight spells are down, even with them, with these heroes back up, they can't do anything.
Tims trying to look for another toss back, but he's going to have to get himself out as now they'll go into that mid lane of Barracks. Boom. That'll be enough.
Yeah, they leave the range at 13 HP. They play it safe. Is probably just going to go to the next creep wave. They could just deny it. I don't think they will, of course, because why would you give super creeps away? But they pull back. Roche is going to be up in 5 seconds, so a really quick respawn as well for Boom to kind of abuse. They've got control of the triangle still. It's dipping into the Roshan's not going to be too hard for them. They do miss out by a few seconds, but I don't think they even need to wait for Roshan. Like, they can just go back in, lasso's back up. You might be running into Haunt timings and Tombstone timings, but...
Oh, Lasso catches him out again. CML, he's going to try and hookshot it and help Natsumi, though. He's really out of options here. He's going to try and get himself out, but there's just no chance. No buyback. Boomy, he's dying from a mile away here to Yopaj with the Hurricane Pike out.
Jeez.
GG, they've had enough. A great start to the game here for Polaris, but in the end it just proves to not be quite enough. It's Boom Esports finished this game off the 30-minute mark with a 27k net worth lead.
Yeah, going really well for Boom, 18 to 32. Nice game coming out from them. Polaris, they had a couple of ideas, and they went back to the Spectre on pause 1. They go with the offlane Undying. For a while, the lane of Nico and Boomy looked pretty good until they started leaving Nico alone. Like, on paper, an Undying should be able to hold the lane solo. Up against 2 ranged heroes, it's easier said than done. And we never saw that early escalation coming out from the Undying. And Boom just managed to make it work. Sure, Palos had a slower start, but in the end, they got Yopaj their bigger win condition. The initial farm, he managed to build up. The lane matchup was manageable for Yopaj, despite the early rotation from Boomy getting that kill. Yopaj was still finding the CS. He wasn't zoned out by Mac at all. And he still hit that death with blink timing very well. We'll have to see how Polaris changes it up for game number 2. But Boom, they're looking pretty good tonight.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Again, rough start to the game, but eventually mid-game hits, they just start cleaning up. We'll see what they get done in game 2. It is MLP johnxfire. We'll be back after a short 10-minute break. for our final game of the night. See you then.